Hello, all you wonderful Rise of Kingdoms players out there. This is Dragothien here, and today we're going to be doing an investment guide on legendary commanders. So I wanted to give you kind of a, is it worth it to invest in this particular commander? Do we need to wait and see? Wait and see means a couple things. It can mean we need to wait and see if the commander will actually turn out to be good because they just came out, or we need to understand a little bit more about the commander before we can pair them up and maybe have a top tier commander pairing. Or again, just they've been bad in the past, but maybe there's going to be an update for them in the future. And then finally, not worth it. It's just not worth it. Don't do it. Don't invest legendary sculptures, universal sculptures into these commanders because they're just not worth the investment. There are better commanders that you can put those sculptures into that do the role that these commanders are supposed to play, but better. Okay, so I think that there's a lot of questions about a lot of these commanders on should I invest in them, should I not, should I wait? That's what this video is about. I hope this is going to help you guys out. And this is, I think, a really good pairing to my Commander Max Order video that I did a week or so ago, where it kind of shows you the process and the schedule of when you should be maxing your legendary commanders out, in which order they should be maxed out, I should say, not necessarily when, because people spend differently into the game. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. I've already got it set up behind my cover graphic here. I'm just going to scroll it from the right. We're going to start with not worth and then go into worth it. I'm going to break down why the worth it ones are worth it. And I'll do a couple wait and see ones as well, just to kind of give you my thought process on what I'm thinking. So again, this is for battle. This is for PvP. This is not for PvE or any of that nonsense. This is strictly for fighting, which is what this channel is all about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and start scrolling from the right. Now, these are the not worth it commanders in my opinion. And the reason I say it is because, again, these commanders may have had value in the past, or may have just had a good value at some point, but end game they don't have a great value. And the other thing is possibly they just take too many universals to max, like say a Wu, which is why I have Wu over here. The max you can get her sculptures from KBK, because she's a KBK commander, or Card King, you can get them from Card King later on, is like 50 to 70 sculptures, depending on if you won KBK and if you had the Zig at the end and that kind of thing. That leaves 620 plus sculptures needed to max her. Those all have to be universal, and with her not being able to be used in KBK2 anymore, she's really been relegated to a backup to Artemisia as a secondary commander, or a mixed troop style thing where you're trying to kill your siege off or something. I mean, there's just not a whole lot of value there. There's so many more better commanders. There's so much more better commanders out there for garrison purposes now, especially with Theodora and Zenobia and the like. Same thing with YSS. I just don't see the value. Open field, I've fought against him, and he just doesn't have any staying power, and he doesn't pump out that much damage. And then again, unless you're really just trying to kill off your siege in a garrison, YSS really doesn't have any value for a specialized purpose, which is what the garrison meta has become. It's a specialized purpose. So YSS I don't think has any value. Edward, he was a good idea. I regret maxing him. And that's just because, again, with some of the later Archer commanders that are out, it just doesn't make sense to me, especially with his mechanic of taking an extra basically turn or two to actually cast his skill damage, which I understand Tamiris, but we'll get to that. El Cid, I just wouldn't put any extra commander sculptures into him to get him to where you need him to be, let alone maxed out. He just doesn't have anything necessarily super special past his silence, which is on the first skill, or I guess it's a disable, not a silence, but you get my drift. This is his first skill. Once you have that first skill, you basically have what's special about him, and it's not necessarily necessary for him to be maxed. Barca, to me, not worth it past KBK1. KBK1, he's worth it, but if you're playing the long game, not necessarily worth it. And then Julius, again, it's Julius. He's universal. He can be used everywhere, but I wouldn't pump universals into him. Just wait until you max him out through the gold keys. It'll probably take a year and a half to do, but, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. All right, let's go to wait and see. Now, again, wait and see is a little different in the idea that, again, these guys are okay. You might want to pump a few sculptures into him or her to get a certain skill that you like on the commander itself, or these guys are currently underdeveloped from a skill perspective. Like, the game just has not given these guys a good luck when it comes to having good skills. However, I think adjustments that may happen in the future, or again, possibly there's something that we haven't found yet that might make this commander particularly really, really, really good. I just haven't found it yet. So with Leo, I did a video maxing Leo, and I do think he has a lot of value. I don't know if it's necessarily worth the Universal Sculptures, though. Just because, again, there's nothing super special that's like, wow, I need that. So I would wait and see with Leo and see if maybe they buff him a little bit more or they fix him. Maybe there's a problem. Chandra, I think he has a niche value, but I don't necessarily think he's like gotta have. He's got that enfeeblement kind of debuff where it's negative defense and health. I think that's his best skill, to be honest with you. All the other skills are just kind of giving you something else besides that debuff. And honestly, if you're looking for debuffs, there's other commanders that may suit that a little bit better, although this one in particular is really good. So I'd wait and see. Maybe there's going to be an extra mechanic or a fix to Chandra that might be a little bit better. Constantine's usable at 5511, and unless you're really, really, really heavy into Canyon, or you don't have Theo or access to Theo or Zenobia or any of the other later Garrison commanders, I wouldn't recommend pumping sculptures into Constantine because they're just better out there. But getting him to 5511 with Universal Sculptures isn't the worst thing in the world. In fact, he's pretty good at 5511. Freddy, I would just wait until you get the gold keys in the the shop to max him. Once you get to late game, he's usable, but he's not exactly like, oh my gosh, I have to have him. Especially as part of a murder ball, like he doesn't have a whole lot of value there. You're taking a lot of severely wounded when you use him. Charlemagne, I've heard that he's going to get a buff at some point in the future, so I kind of have him in the wait and see category. Definitely would not put any universals into him right now, but he does have a value, I think, maybe whenever they adjust him. Harold, it's one of those wait and see things because we really truly need to wait and see. There's reports out there where people are saying he's absolute garbage, and then I've seen some reports where he's actually done pretty well. I think that I need to wait for, again, you guys know me. I want to test it with my own builds, my own pairings, and in my own situations to see truly if he is good for any particular role, because people are 1 versus 1ing him with 100k troops solo. Like, that's not a good test. Mulan, I think, is also a wait and see. I think she's got a value here. I think she's really good in Canyon. I think she's great as part of a murder ball, having a few of those out there, but I would also wait and see, because again, she is now a gold key commander. You can max her through the gold keys. Very similar to Freddy, where I just kind of think she's going to have a value. I think she's good. I think there's probably some pairings out there that are really good, and we just haven't found them yet. And I think that she's going to be worth it eventually, but maybe just wait and see, which is why I've got her in the second category. Now let's go over to the worth it category. I'm going to run through these guys really quickly because some of them are obvious and some of them might need a small explanation, but I think for the most part people are understanding, and this is a good thing, right? I mean, this is what you want to see. You know, you have commanders over here on the worth it category where if you invest in them, they're worth it to have. You want to have these guys in your stable whenever you're bringing your troops out on the battlefield or you're doing rallies and things like that. So YSG goes without explanation. He is the first legendary you should max. I've got the archer commanders up here, and then I've got the cav commanders with a little bit of overflow here, and then universal / garrison commanders here, and then finally the infantry commanders at the bottom. So we're going to roll through these. YSG, again, no need for an explanation. Tamiris, she has value, and debuffing skill damage is a huge value. And even without Edward, pairing Tamiris up with, say, your next commander, like Ramses, where he's got the attack tree, it delays a little bit of skill, rage regeneration, I should say, and that helps buff a little bit more of Tamiris' skill damage. And then again, I think that with Artemisia is another good pairing in the open field, and then certainly as a garrison, Artemisia is one of the top flight pairings. I've given in. I've finally jumped on the Artemisia bandwagon. I think that although she's not as good as some of the other commanders out there, she still has a really good value, and she's versatile. She's got a lot of different uses. Ethelflaed goes without question because she's free, and everybody will eventually max her, and she's definitely worth it. Her debuff is second to none, basically, and she needs to be utilized as part of a larger group for kind of just battle in general. Genghis, I toyed with having Genghis over in the wait and see category as well. He still is one of the most damaging characters in the game, so I had to put him over here on worth it. But he's targeted so fast. Like, you have to be able to micro fight to get this guy usable to where you can keep him actually doing what he's supposed to be doing, which is causing a lot of damage. Takeda goes without saying, in my opinion. He is a must-have 5551 at least, and then max him whenever you get the chance. Minna's worth the money, guys. I don't know why people keep saying Minna is outdated or anything. Like, he does so much. Like, his fourth skill is a 30% damage debuff. Hot damn. And then just his skill damage in general. He pumps out a lot of skill damage. He's versatile. He's got attack. He's got movement speed. And he's just costs money. So, I mean, if you got the money, he's worth it. Minna is probably, again, if you're maxing any of these worth it commanders with the exception of Ethelflaed, he's probably the cheapest one to get, guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie. All these other commanders cost hundreds of dollars to max, between bundles to purchase for the speed ups that it takes to win the first day of MGE, speed ups to heal for kill event whenever you're doing kills, speed ups to do the power event whenever you're powering up your power on the fourth day. I mean, it costs a lot of money to win MGEs, and you have to win four. Number one place, first place, win four to even get close to maxing a commander, and this guy you can max with basically $200. So he's one of the best ones, and he's still usable today at the end game after almost 700 days of playing. I still use him on the battlefield. William, he's a newer commander, but he's a must-have and great for group fights, open field fights. Not necessarily a rallier, but he can be used as a rallier. Even though he does have a conquering tree, he's not really, his bread and butter is open field. Let's just be honest. Saladin, still a must-have. 5551 does work. But maxing him is definitely worth it eventually. Attila, must have, worth it. He's still the best rally in the game, hands down. You just got to pay attention to some of the later commanders I'm about to go over, and you might need to adjust that out a little bit now that we finally have a true counter to Attila. Double C, still worth it. Cao Cao is definitely still worth it, still usable. He's got a ton of attack. Just don't use him in situations where you need a little bit of extra defense, because he does reduce your defense a little bit, so with his expertise. So you just need to make sure that you're using him the right way, but he pumps out a ton of damage. Mehmed is still usable. In fact, he's great in Canyon. He's definitely worth it in the open field. When you need an extra AoEer, he does what he needs to do, but really his bread and butter is city rallies. And if you pair him up with, like, a Guan or a Ramses or really any other skill damage commander in the game as a secondary, he is one of the best city ralliers in the game, not named Attila Takeda. So he's definitely a nice to have. And then Zenobia. So we're going to a couple of these garrison commanders, Zenobia and Theodora. These two are your bread and butter garrison pairings / commanders going forward. You want to have at least Zenobia, and really Theodora rounds everything out. So if you have Zenobia Theodora on your city wall, you might actually be able to take an Attila Takeda rally in your city, even if you don't have full infantry in your city, which nobody really does or is going to have that. It's still going to work. It's that good. Zenobia is just amazing against Attila Takeda. So if you want something to actually defend against your city, defend your city against an Attila Takeda, Zenobia is it. She's a must-have. Theodora, same thing. She's worked really well with Charles Theodora as a pairing in your city, and then certainly in the open field, Constantine or Charles Theodora on the flags and the passes and things like that are working really well as well. And then finally, let's get to the infantry commanders we all know and love here. Richard, yes, you want to max him, guys. He's not invalid. He's usable in every facet of the game from the beginning of the game until now. I use him in Arc, in Osiris League playoffs right now. He is still usable. I'm using him as Richard Leo on the battlefield and wrecking face with it. He's really good, and he's a must-have in Canyon. He's a must-have pretty much everywhere. Just don't use him for Garrison. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Unless you're in Arc. Arc is fine, but anywhere else is not fine. Alex, must-have. Alex is basically the infantry version of YSG. He should be your second maxed commander. Again, go check out my Commander Max order video if you have questions on which one of these you should be maxing and in which order. It's not about time, guys. It's about the order. So just kind of keep that in mind. Charles is a must max, although, again, 5511 is a good place to start. But Charles definitely should be a must max. But if you want to be the most efficient, right, you want to use the gold keys to do that and the dailies and not necessarily use universals. And then finally, Guan. Guan is the man. He is definitely a must-have. He has an AoE silence. I mean, who would not want that? Alongside of a crap ton of skill damage. He's maneuverable. He's versatile. We just did a battle card on him versus Herald. He, I think, won that battle card versus Herald because of how versatile he is. And again, he can be paired with quite a few players, quite a few commanders to really be really good on the battlefield, whether it's open field, garrison, well, not garrison, open field rallies, and canyon is what I meant to say. So I hope that that kind of breaks everything down for you. I've given you a full breakdown, guys. This is the quintessential. Do you put universals into these commanders? Do you want to max these commanders at some point? This is what this guide is for. I hope it's been helpful. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Have a good one. Take care. If I can find, there it is.